Hi everyone, Adrian de Cléir here from Blocworx. Today I'm going to show you how to build a simple invoicing system on our software. Our software is called Blocworx. It's a no-code solution. You can find out more information about it on www.blockworx.com. What we'll do is actually create the module itself. So in our invoicing section here that I'd set up, we'll do add new module, and we'll call the module invoicing as well. These are module categories that we would have set up on our sandbox. Any customer can have different categories. We leave the icon for now. We can get back to that later. So now we're going to go in and edit the module. So the first thing we need to do is decide our sections. I'm going to pick two sections. One is going to be our databases, like our customer list, our price list, things like that. Databases, we'll call it. That can be any name. The second one, we will say invoicing for the actual invoicing activity. So inside the databases section, we're going to create some blocks. The first one we will do is our customer list. And we can just pick this icon here, put that in the databases section. And the second one can be our price list. So this can be a price list that's set in stone, but we can get in more detail later. We'll just find an icon like money. And we put that in the databases section. So next up, we will do our actual invoicing activity itself. So we create a block called generate invoice. And we'll just use something like this. And we put that in the invoicing section. And we're going to create another block that will eventually be available inside this block. And that's what we call a SubBlock, which we can get to once we start building out our invoicing block itself. So we'll just call it invoice line items. And that can be just bullet points. And we put that in the invoicing section. So next up, we're going to create a very basic customer list. So we're now inside the block editor, and the first thing I'm going to do is make it look a bit prettier by using the customize layout. And this will give us a full screen view. We will add a row, and we'll add an element inside this row. And from here, we'll then add a field called customer name. So the next thing we'll do is maybe just a few details like the customer address. Actually, we'll add another row. We'll just say address line 1. And address line 2. And we'll just say county, keep it simple. So the next thing we'll do is start to add some data. So for the sake of this demo, we'll just pretend we have a business that will say supplies fruit and veg to different fruit and veg shops around the country. So let's just put in a few kind of fake customers. We'll say Ronan's Fruit Shop, Lane Street, address to Cork. We could say, and that's submitted. Information's going underneath. Vegetarians, line 12, O'Connell Street, Dublin. I'm going to say Jenny's Fruit and Veg, Patrick Street. I would say 12 Lane, Patrick Street, Limerick. So now we've put in a few customers. So our next step is we're going to put in a price list. So we'll go into the price list and we will edit this form. First thing we're going to do is add a row. And we will just say item and price. For the price, we will put on a rule for calculating the mathematics. We'll make it a numeric field. And we'll set the decimal places to 2. So I've gone into field parameters there and turned on make this a numeric field. And we'll set the decimal places. So it's a very simple form just for this exercise. And we'll just add a few different units. We'll just say per kilo. So apples are 4.60. Banana is 2.95. Parsnips 3.60. And we'll say peppers 9.90. Okay, so that's our prices complete. Next up, we will build the actual invoice form itself. So what I've done is found a online free invoice template. So what we'll do is we'll model our form off this very basic invoicing template: company name, invoice number, details, some notes, and then the line items here. So we can get started with creating some of the fields. Go to edit mode. I always like to use the customize layout. It gives you the full screen. The default layout is just having the input on the left and the form on the right. And we'll add our first row. We've added a row. We'll just add our first field, which will be the list of customers available to us. So now we're going to use the fields drop down from block. And we'll just say choose customer. And we can select the block, customer list, select the field, customer name, and click submit. And here we have our list of customers. Next thing we'll do is fill out some of the details for this customer. So we're going to link up the data from the customer list. So we'll create a few fields that they're called plain data fields. So they're fields basically we won't ever be manually putting information into. So we'll say address line 1. I'll do a handy duplicate here, address line 2, and then we'll just say county. So our next task will be to get this information when we choose the customer. So by doing that, we use one of our rules called populate another local field with data from elsewhere. So the block to look up is the customer list. The data required is the address line 1. The local field we're going to populate is address line 1. And then the fields that must match so we know which data we're looking for. In this case, it's choose customer and customer name. Add matching pair and click submit. And I'll just show you from the front end what that does exactly. So when I choose a customer, it knows to get the address line 1 based on the customer I picked. So I'll just finish out the other two. So we'll add a new rule. Customer list, customer name, local field to populate is address line 2 this time. So the rules are going to be almost identical. It's just we're populating different information. The data required is address line 2. And submit that. And we'll just do the third one for the county. Data required is county. Local field to populate is county. And choose local field, customer. So that's our lookup basically. And we can have as many of them as we want if we want to refine our lookup. So we go back to the front end and we just refresh the screen. And now we can see when we select any of the customers, we're getting the information from our customer list. So the next thing we're going to do, we'll go back to our Word file and just examine what else we need to do. In this case, we won't be populating this dynamically from Blocworx, so we can just say my fruit distribution company. And we can put in our own address here. My address, line 1, line 2, that's not too important. So we're going to prepare this document. And we just see, is there anything else that we can put in straight away that isn't populated from Blocworx? It doesn't look like it. We'll just clean up a few things here. So what we're going to do here is prepare this for the template in Blocworx. Because these rows are going to be dynamic, we only need one for now. Use this space. So we'll just save this and have it ready, and we'll come back to this in a small while. Fruit company template. Next, we're going to go back to Blocworx and start adding more fields. So I'm going to add that notes field I saw. I saw the notes section in the Word file. And we'll just make it a large text area. Please use uppercase or lowercase. We'll pick mixed case. The next thing we're going to do is start taking a look at how our template falls into this. So the template we had prepared was this one. What we need to do is get the fields from the block that are available to us so that we can start populating this template. So what we do is go down to Manage Doc Export Templates and click Generate Mockup. And this gives us a Word file that contains all the fields. So we can see choose customer, address line 1, notes, price, total VAT. So these are, we can copy these now right into our original template. So as you can see, I'm preparing this template to be filled out by Blocworx. Address line 2. And county. We have our own stuff here. That's not going to be changing. The price is going to be changing. So we can say total, or we can just say price. And we leave the euro symbol there because we're not actually using that inside Blocworx. And we put it in here as well. And now we have also the VAT one. What we'll do is we'll just change this to 23% for now. And we'll put in our total plus VAT here. Total VAT. We'll worry about the line items now in a few minutes. What we'll put in here is our notes. And now we have a template made just to give a very basic invoice. One more thing we need to do is actually the invoice number itself, which we can use what's called an auto generate field. And I'll put it in here. So auto generate invoice number. I'll go back, I clicked submit too soon. So what kind of auto generator we're going to go with? We'll say text, date, and numbers. The length of digits is 4. The starting number is 0001. Let's say the text will say Might Fruit Company, so MFC. And the date format can be something like this. And we move that to the top. As you can see, it auto generates here MFC with the date format 00001. Now we can see our field slugs, which are these things. Now I already exported the mockup, but I can click it again so we can see the latest ones. So if we go down here to the template exporter, we can see invoice number. So we'll just put that in here. And we'll save this template. And we'll upload this one. And now we have a first template. So we can go back to the front end and see how it works out. We'll select our customer. So we have our address and stuff. We put in some notes. Some notes go here. We do our price. And we'll go to export this template. We'll click PDF. And here we have our invoice. We can see our number here. We can see the amount. We see the addresses. And we can see our details down here. more price and stuff. So next what we're going to do is the actual line items. What we'll be doing for that is creating what's called a SubBlock. Go to edit mode. So for each invoice, we're going to have the invoice number. Actually, I can make that a plain data field. And the reason that is we're going to be feeding that number from the other block. We can put in item. Actually, so the item can come from our price list. So we'll edit this field and we will say drop down from block. And we'll say price list, item. The next one is the price itself of that item. So we'll say price per kilo. That's going to be a plain data because we'll feed it from the item price. So what we'll do is we'll add a rule here, just like we did before, populate another field with data from elsewhere. So now this time we're looking up the price list. The data required is the price. The local field to populate is price per kilo. And the items that must match is the fields that must match our item. And we click submit. So that's price per kilo. Then we need the quantity. So the quantity we're going to make that a numeric field as well. And basically at the end we'll do the total. We'll do a math field again, which will be total for this line item, which will be price per kilo multiply by quantity, and submit this. So now we have our form. We don't have it linked up yet, but we can still look. We don't have it linked up with the main invoicing form, but we can preview it anyway. So when I click peppers, price per kilo 99, and we'll say quantity is 10, and that gives us our 99 is the total cost. Now the next thing we're going to do is link. We're going to put in invoice line items inside generate invoice, and that's what's called a SubBlock. The idea is that you can load information inside the invoice line items that basically gets fed information from this one. We'll add a new row, a blank row. We'll move it up just so it's below the notes, nice and neat. We will add a full width element. We will now add the SubBlock, so we'll call it invoice line items. Select the block we want is invoice line items. Select how the block will show, so show by default, so we'll just have it that it's appearing on the screen. Select, that there isn't a button required to open it. We'll change it, we'll use a button for triggering. Select how the block will be displayed on the screen. We'll say embed, so it's just going to sit inside the block as opposed to being a pop-up or a full screen pop-up. And now we can link the kind of host block information with the child one. The host one being the one we're on, the generate invoice, and the child one being the invoice line items. So we're going to link invoice number with invoice no, and we click submit. Just for make it a bit neater, we'll hide the label. We'll do that in the parameters, hide the label for this field. And next thing we will do is figure out a way of getting the subtotal from the invoice line items. So I'm going to create a button here called calculate total. And actually that's going to be just a single button here. Button field, calculate total, press value, yes, unpressed, no. That doesn't matter for now. I'll show you what we're doing in a second. Oh, I'll move that into another block to make it a bit nicer. So I'm going to add a rule, populate another local field with total from elsewhere, block to look up. We'll say the invoice line items. Total required is the total field. Local field to populate is the price field. So now we're not going to be typing in this anymore. We'll actually just populate it. I'm going to change this to a plain data field. The options we have: calculate total numeric or calculate number of values. We'll calculate total numeric. And what are the matching fields? In this case, it's going to be the invoice number. So in a nutshell, what this rule will do is it'll say go to the invoice line items, find the totals for that invoice number, and then populate the price field. I'll click submit here. And what I'll do is I will edit this field, price field, so you can no longer type into it manually. We'll make it a plain data field. Click submit. And other thing we'll do is we'll just make sure it's numeric as well. Oh yeah, we already put that in. Perfect. I'll set it to 2 decimal places. And we'll go back and we will build an invoice or two inside Blocworx. So we have our invoice number generated. We'll pick our first customer, some notes for Jenny, and we'll add a few line items. We'll just say peppers, it's $9.90 per kilo. We'll say we want 12 of them. The next one we'll say bananas, $2.95, 10 of them. And apples, $4.60, we'll say 13 of them, 13 kilos. So now we're happy with our line items inside this invoice, but we're not done yet. We're now going to use this button to calculate the total. So as you can see, it worked out the price and then it added the VAT as well. And we can submit this. Now we didn't have to submit it to do our export, but we now have this invoice saved. So I can click show more to view this at any point. And when we export this, we will see everything except for the line items because we haven't done that part of the template yet. But as you can see, there's your invoice number and there's the total price and it's calculated down there. That's the old one, that's the template. So we need to go back to our SubBlock and figure out what are the field slugs that go into the Word file. So there's a few handy ways of doing it. One is the one I showed you where you can just export the Word file and you have access to them right away. So that's using the generate mockup. There's another one here where it says list of available field slugs. So I might just do that because it's a bit handier and we already know how to build a template. So I'm going to go into our invoice template and I will grab the field slugs that we want. So item, and we know the format based on looking at the other ones. It's like this. I'll just make sure it's kind of clean. And next one is price per kilo. Price per kilo. So that's just the kind of word formatting rather than how it came out in Blocworx. I'm sure if I change that, we'd neaten it up a bit. And quantity is just quantity, so we can just type that. And then total is the same. So the system will know based on the linked fields that these are coming from the subform. So I'm going to save this template and I will upload the new template. Oh, we're in the wrong block, so I'm actually in the invoice line items block. We need to go back to our generate invoice block and we'll edit this block. Just for neatness, I'll just delete this old one and I'll just say latest template. Saved 1221 and upload file. So we'll go back to the front end, and what we'll do is rather than creating a new invoice, we can just load up this one and we can see just as a test to see how it comes out. And we use the PDF. And pretty much perfect. There's a few little things we can improve in the template itself. So what I'll do is I'll just add like the euro symbol in front of the actual variable, or not in front of the quantity, in front of the price per kilo and in front of the total. I'll save that. And we'll just do another upload of the template. So we can have different templates for different scenarios as well. As you can see, I like to keep them clean. If they're just reiterations of the same one, just improved, I like to keep it clean, but sometimes it's handy if you want different situations. And we can go back to our existing one and export this. And it's just a bit neater, we can see. And there are other rules we can put in place, or parameters to force the decimals to go to 0, 60, so it's a bit more readable from a pricing point of view. We'll just do one more invoice. As you can see, the number has automatically gone up to 002 now. It's the same day. If this was the next day, this would go back to 01. So we'll just do Ronan's Fruit Shop. Hi Ronan, enjoy the fruit. And you can see the invoice number passed into the SubBlock. He just wants parsnips. Now there's one small thing here that I spotted. We're still seeing the numbers from the other invoice. So we can either leave that there because it could be handy just to see, or we can put in a option to filter only by the numbers that are available. So are the numbers that it's supposed to be doing. So to do that, I'm gone into the editor of the invoice line items. I'm going to parameters and data filtering field. You can do data filtering for subblocks only, but in this case, we're not using this in the other one. So we go back to the block. I go back to generate invoice. I'll go to the front end. And now we just start again. Hi Ronan, enjoy the fruit. And as you can see, only Ronan's items are put in there. So we carry on as we were. Add a few items. Apples 14. And we can calculate subtotal. And we don't even have to click submit, but it's always good to submit it. And there we have our second invoice for Ronan, built with a template that I just found online. Features coming soon will be the ability to actually have a field assigned as an email address, so that basically you'll have the option to export it or just have the field populated, which might be the customer's email address, and then just click send. That'll be hopefully coming on in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And another feature we're looking at is the ability to have these saved in another block or this block. And it's a really handy way of just, at the moment it generates the invoice on the fly as you click the view button of the data. But having them saved could be a handy way of giving other people access to them as well and stuff like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and don't forget, if you want any more information, you can contact us on info@blockworx.com. Keep enjoying our channel and keep going onto our website, www.blockworx.com, to see more about no code and citizen development and to watch more of our how-to videos. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.